Congrats to the Braves.
All right, Dave Bartoo, we've had him on before, does a great job covering all sorts of things, college athletics. CFB Matrix joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Dave, thank you very much. We have discussed the standings. We think it's just kind of a look at us. And a lot of times it doesn't seem to make sense, but you break down and crunch a lot of numbers. Let's look at the four, their first four. Did they get those, in your opinion, based on you crunching numbers? Did they get them right?
Well, and you got to understand the numbers that we crunch are the ranking rules that Bill Hancock pushed out in 2014. So this is my opinion. This is what Hancock says. When you're on the committee, here are your rules to rank teams. So you don't have a lot of freedom at the committee. That's why what they have done is the same thing for 8 years. Now, the only thing they did different in the top four, based on the other 49 rankings that have happened in the past, one thing was different. Georgia was exactly where they were supposed to be. Alabama was exactly where that resume was supposed to be. Michigan State was supposed to be at 4. The resume at 3 was Cincinnati. Cincinnati got dumped down all the way to number 6. But if you look at that first 4, based on what everybody's done in the past with the committees and what Hancock said are the rules of ranking teams, whether you agree with it or not, that's too bad. The only thing that was really out of place is Cincinnati not being at number 3.
Dave, are you a guy who's in favor of the 12-team playoff?
No. Hate it.
Why?
Hate it. 2 reasons specific, actually 3. One, I don't think we need to go to 17 games to win a national title. I think it's too many. I'd like to cut it back 1 game at least. All right. I don't like buys. I think it is a massive disadvantage to have a bye. Just like I think it's a massive disadvantage for a group of 5 team to be in there when they haven't had the physicality of a Power 5 conference. Okay. And that's basically my third thing. I don't think the group of 5 belongs in there. I used to, but look, they just took 4 of their 8 best recruiters, which weren't that good to begin with, and pulled them out of there. And the G5 just went out and watered itself down with 4 more FCS teams. I'm good with 8. I'm good with reducing the committee in terms of its power. I'm in favor of expanding the committee to also include 1/3 analytics, 1/3 line makers, and then just go 5 conference champions. That way there's one route into it. Here's a little twist about the 3 wild card spots, because everybody's always complaining about what? Non-conference scheduling. So how about the committee ranks the top 3 available non-conference schedules to be the 6, 7, and 8 team?
Huh. Man, you threw some stuff at us right there, because we haven't had you on about this in quite some time. I'm glad you reached out. We both reached out yesterday, and we're chatting back and forth. Dave Bartoo, CFP Matrix, with us on Sikkim 365 Radio.
Yeah, Dave, when it comes to Cincinnati, where did they go off course compared to what they're supposed to do, as you said?
Well, the resume, because we just what we do is we look at it. We have team A, basically team 1 through 130. We don't even have names on our spreadsheets. Okay, so we can't. When we do this, it is just with teams, and then we figure out who the teams are later. Okay, so Cincinnati, their resume, so they're 8-0. Their strength of schedule, now the strength of schedule we use is the one Hancock said that they primarily go to, and it's a really dumb one, and I hate it, but it's what they use. And Cincinnati was 111. They had 2 quality wins, 1 top 25 win, and they had excellent game control. They had the second best game control. That's what got them to number 3. Okay, so it didn't matter if Baylor or Cincinnati or Oregon or Wisconsin had this resume. We pegged it for number 3. I 100%, the entire top 25, there's only one bias in this whole thing, and that is we hate G5s. That's it. There's nothing else. I mean, Baylor's at 12. We had them at 12. Okay. Notre Dame's at 10. We had them at 10. Oregon was ahead of Ohio State. Oklahoma's at 8. That's where we had them. There is one thing that the committee did here, and the message is loud and clear. No G5s in this party, baby. You're all out.
Wow. Even before the expansion, even before they watered down G5s with the teams joining the Big 12, among others?
Well, what do you mean? What do you mean?
Like the G5s are out. Like this year, G5s are out even if Cincinnati runs so they're done?
No, they look, back in 2014 when the rules came down, we looked at what they were saying. I've said G5 has been out since day one.
Okay.
There's no path. There's no path ever in this. Now, I shouldn't say never because weird things happen in sports, right? That's why we play the game. But when you look at these numbers, not just today, not just last night, but every single ranking, it's stacked against them 100% because a top 25 win is really critical. It's hard to get top 25 wins when you're in a lower conference because there's not many top 25 teams. So it's really, really hard to do that. And so it's been stacked against them from day one. I'm saying the only thing the committee did last night, they stuck to the schedule 100% in the top 15. And then instead of adding top 25 teams at the bottom, they added 4 prop 25 teams. Mississippi State, North Carolina State, Minnesota, and Pitt are prop 25 teams. They prop up teams above them, okay? And the teams that are prop 25 teams, they took a G5 place. Look, you look at our calculations, 1 through 14, we missed 1. Cincinnati was out of place. Everything else we did was in exact order before the committee even came out. And then it started falling apart. And the UTSAs, your Louisianas, your Coastal Carolina, your SMU, they all got thrown out in favor of Prop 25 teams.
So, Dave, let me ask you this in regards to the G5 teams. I mean, I like your playoff idea and the reasons why you stated that. I'm for expansion. It doesn't have to be 12. I mean, 8 sounds good the way that you propose that. We all know that the Power 5, so to speak, get the benefit of the doubt. So, what's the purpose of, the Power 5s? Like, in your opinion, if they're not going to matter, like, what direction should we head to where this is actually like a real contest and not some, beauty pageant that they're faking every week?
Well, I don't see it as a beauty pageant because I gave you the formula. I can come on your show before it happens to tell you what's going to happen. We've never missed a Final Four, top 4 in order, and there's only 8 variables. So I really don't believe it's a beauty pageant. I just believe the committee is confined. You got 13 very busy, very powerful people that have to sort 30 teams in 2 hours. You have to have some sort of structure to get that done,
right?
And we've cracked it, okay. But in terms of the Power 5 versus a G5, the Group of 5, I really believe we all know it comes down to money, right? I mean, it really just comes down to money. I think the Group of 5. Regular season, do we really, really watch and care about Group of 5 upsets? We really don't, right? I mean, the regular season for the Group of 5, for the players and coaches and the fans, is important, but in terms of eyeballs, it doesn't mean that much. So to me, if I'm Group of 5, let's go strike a deal and make a 16 or 32 team playoff like the FCS, because the regular season doesn't matter. Now, I'm somebody who wants the Power 5 season to matter. I want Baylor beating Oklahoma and making it an upset and somehow keeping Oklahoma out of the playoffs. I don't want 12 teams. I don't want 16. I don't want to beat Oklahoma and watch them go into the playoffs regardless of what happens. So I want to keep the regular season relevant and good for college football. I don't want it to be the NFL. So to me, I'm good with the 8-team max. I just think the Group of 5 needs to go make a 16 or 32 team playoff, and that's how they make their money.
Since you know the Final Four, tell us now who's going to be there.
I don't know that. But,
I know.
But look,
I know.
We got, but we only have a handful of teams that have control of their destiny, right?
Sure.
Right now, in terms of winning out, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Michigan State, Alabama, and Georgia. They win out. They're in. Period. Any one of those 16, they're in. Everybody else needs some kind of help.
So that's just predetermined. That is just the way it's set up. That because of what they've done up to this point and who they have left on their schedule.
Who they have left. And if their schedule pays out properly, gosh, thank you so much for bringing that up. Because so many people are always like, well, what if this team does this? I don't know. What else happened? Because this is all in motion, right? Quality wins count. So right now, a Baylor quality win, let's say that team's 5-4 and they lose next week. If they're 5-5, guess what? You lost the quality win. It's out the door. So Oregon needs Fresno to stay in the top 25, because if Fresno falls out of the top 25, you have to lose to the top 25 win. Oregon. So all of these things are in motion.
Okay, you said Georgia, Alabama, Oklahoma, Ohio State. You say Michigan State?
Michigan State, right, because you look at their remaining schedule, it's backloaded, right? There's a bunch of top 25 teams there. So Oklahoma has Baylor, which is one of the most balanced teams in college football, amazingly, totally undertalked, pisses me off, and they got Oklahoma State, okay? So you're going to get two quality, if they win, let's just assume they win. They get two quality wins there. They're going to get two top 25 wins there. They're going to go to the conference championship game, and they're going to pick up probably 3 more points, a quality win, another top 25 win, and a conference championship. This is where Baylor and TCU screwed themselves. Actually, Bob Bowlesby did it by not listening to the committee rules and giving you guys a championship game. Championship game's critical. Same thing with Ohio State, Michigan State. They win out. They're going to both pick up 3 more top 25 wins, 3 more quality wins. That's going to put them in there. The really big one is Alabama, Georgia. If Alabama loses, they're done. Okay. But if Georgia doesn't win out and go 12-1, they still have enough top 25 wins and game control to get themselves into the playoffs.
So if Alabama runs the table, and that means also, and again, there's going to be other upsets along the way. There will be a few more. But if Alabama runs the table, then beats Georgia, they're in. And Georgia, there's a good chance if they lose that game, they're going right back in anyway. They're not going to drop out of the top 4?
No, they're not going to drop out of the top 4 because they'll still have enough top 25 wins. Their game control should be off the charts. They lead the country in game control. And for everybody listening, game control is a fancy word for margin of victory. See, the playoff committee, they can't use margin of victory. So their fancy word they use for it is a quarterly system. It's called game control. But just this is why you style points? No such thing. Just blow people out. That's what it is. It's margin of victory. Let's stop beating around the bush on that. So Georgia is still going to be in there because their strength of schedule based on the committee strength of schedule ranking and their game control is still going to be out of this world even with that one loss.
Dave, you mentioned the G5s and how they factor or don't factor into this. What are your thoughts on the teams that are joining the Big 12?
Don't look at them as they are now. Look, I sent Bob Bowlesby a proposal every single year. I made somebody at the Big 12 sign for it because I wanted them to understand, because remember how they always talked about expansion? Oh, we don't want to water down our conference, right, with inferior talent. So stupid and short-sighted. And here's why. Look at Utah, Louisville, and TCU. Okay, when they were G5s, TCU recruited in the 90s. Now they're in the Big 12. They recruit in the 25s and the 30s. Utah used to recruit in the 80s. Now they recruit in the 30s. So like Cincinnati right now is the number 1 G5 recruiter. All right. And they're in the 50s. You know what they're going to be in 4 years in the Power 5? If the Big 12 is still in the playoffs, they're going to be your number 1 recruiter. That's right. I'll say it right now. Cincinnati in 4 years will be the Big 12's best recruiter. And if it had done this 4 years ago or 6 years ago, Cincinnati would be their number 3 recruiter right now and in the top 25 in recruiting. UCF is going to be a top 30 recruiter. Okay. Normally they're in the 60s. It's going to get cut in half. So all of these teams that are coming in, I don't know what's going to happen with BYU because their admission and all of their stuff, it's wonky. Okay. But they should still get better players and they perform above talent anyways. But the other 3 teams, do not look at them in a vacuum right now because that membership into the Power 5 to have access to that playoff is going to cut their average recruiting class ranking in half, almost within 4 or 5 years.
That has been something that I've tried to explain, not who they are now, but who they could be or will be, and some just aren't able to fathom that. And I agree with you on that. Yeah.
It was laid out. Utah and TCU showed everybody exactly the power of the Power 5, and nobody wanted to listen, and it still pisses me off about what could have been.
All right, go ahead, Paul.
Just a quick question on BYU, Dave. I mean,
on who?
On BYU.
Okay.
Because you said they're wonky. Would their ability now compete for a national championship and conference championships and all those things that come with being in a conference and being in a Power 5 league? They have a corner on a certain a certain type of athlete, and that's Mormon kids that are going to come there. Would they now maybe rope in some of the Mormon kids that might be better that want to go play somewhere else because they want to win a national title and don't go to BYU?
Bingo. Exactly it, right? The only question is how many of them are there? Now, Utah is a vastly underappreciated state for talent. Look at the Utes. Utah Utes pull tons of low recruit NFL draft picks, okay? So how many of those kids are Mormon? Got no idea, right? That's why the biggest enigma in this move of all the four, I know what Cincinnati's going to do. I already told you what I think they're going to do. Told you what I think UCF's going to do, okay? What I don't know is BYU. BYU's top end recruiting is in the high 60s, okay? If they can cut that in half and be in the high 30s, low 40s, that's the equivalent of Oklahoma State. All right? That's about where they would be. That's Oklahoma State level talent right there. And with and the average age of their guys, it's a really old team with the missions and everything. A lot of 24, 25, 26-year-olds. It makes a really, really big difference in football results for them. So that's why I think it's a really big question where BYU is going to be in 4 years. In fact, we'll have the answer in the first 2 years where they're going and where they're going to land.
Dave, this is a question from our chat room, and I think you mentioned it, but you wanted to clarify, and I was going to ask the same question. So you're saying that the college football playoff, dropping SMU and Houston out of the mix, that hurts Cincinnati for obvious reasons, and yet Mississippi State, Wisconsin, among others, are being propped up to help those teams who are in the mix at the top of the poll, correct?
That's exactly what I believe. 100%, because Mississippi State, by the formula, doesn't belong here. Wisconsin does. Okay, Wisconsin's where they're supposed to be. We had them projected at 22. I think they were 21. All right? But Mississippi State, dude, their scoring efficiency is in the 70s on offense and defense. Yeah, they've beaten 3 top 25 teams, but one of them is a top 25 team. North Carolina State is 81st in defense, offensive scoring efficiency. They're not very good either. So, no, I think Houston, well, we didn't have SMU in the top 25. I'll tell you the teams that I think got jobbed by being in the bottom 10. Penn State, who nobody's talking about, has 3 quality wins, toughest strength of schedule in the top 25 and a top 25 win. Penn State got screwed. Houston got screwed. San Antonio, Texas San Antonio, Louisiana Lafayette, and Coastal Carolina. Screwed, and replaced by a bunch of teams that prop up the top 12.
And, gee, what do all those teams have in common? They're not in certain conferences. Hey, Dave, since you mentioned Baylor and their balance, I just get your thoughts on what Dave Aranda's been able to do. Obviously, the defense was kind of already in place last year. They're just, improving with experience, but the offense flipping over to Jeff Grimes and Eric Mateos and company has obviously done wonders for a unit that was just really bad last year in the COVID season. Your thoughts on Aranda and the balance of the Bears?
Oh, my God, they sucked last year, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
I mean, unwatchable. And I was like, when Dave hired Larry, I'm like, oh, my God, Dave, you've done everything right except hire that guy. He is a one-hit wonder, man. and true to form, his offense sucked. Okay, but here's the brilliant part of it. They fired him, right? I mean, he got rid of him, and that took some big guts because it costs money, and usually you don't do that. I mean, it's COVID year. He could have made every excuse to keep Larry Fedora. Every excuse, and he didn't. And he went out and got Grimes, which I was like, ugh. I didn't think it was that great of a hire, but I felt it was a massive improvement. So if I'm a Baylor fan, I am jacked up that Aranda had the guts to make the call that quickly and make a solid upgrade change. Now, was I expecting this kind of offense? Oh, hell to the no. No. I mean, it's a top 20 offensive scoring efficiency. Look, Aranda, when he got to LSU, I tweeted that he is going to leave LSU with a national title. I felt he was that good of a defensive coordinator. He's top 3 in the last 10 years. He's freaking brilliant. But the fact that he made that change on offense and what he has done in offensive and defensive scoring efficiency at Baylor in less than 2 years is nothing short of remarkable. There is no Bear fan on earth that can be dissatisfied with where that program is today. And if they are, you are never going to be happy, bro.
Yeah, I agree. We had somebody just say this, that he thinks that you went from slandering the group of 5 to then complimenting the group of 5. What you were saying about the group of 5 was that their upsets just don't get a lot of attention.
They just don't have a chance, is
but
what he's saying.
You're just being honest, and you're also saying that that's kind of the way they wanted it set up, that Bill Hancock wanted it that way, correct?
Right, I think that's the way it was designed.
Yeah.
Right. I don't hate them. Well, I hate everybody equally, right? It's just easy to be pessimist. When everybody's an optimist and crazy fans, if you're a pessimist, you're probably going to be more right than wrong. But it's nothing against the group of 5, but let's talk reality, okay? And the bottom line is, Tulsa upsetting SMU is nothing like, let's say, Baylor beating Oklahoma at home. It's not even close. The eyeballs aren't there. The memory isn't there. We kept them out of the playoff isn't there. It just isn't the same. And it's nothing against them. It's just the way our emotions and the eyeballs and the money flows, and we got to be realistic about it.
Yeah. All right, Dave. Great stuff. I'm glad we connected and glad we could get on. You've got the chat room going nuts, as you can imagine, with some of your opinions, but also with basically your truth serum of why it's set up the way it is.
Hey, look, my bread and butter is where I work for coaches, football ops, athletic directors. We have an exclusive analytic partnership with just about one team. We only do one team per division. And so I am used to telling people the truth and giving it to them straight by the numbers. And in fact, everybody in your chat room, I will talk football with anybody. I love everybody. I love everything about this. You hit me on my text line, 971-217-8419. I will do everything I can to get back to every single Baylor Bear listener out there.
All right, 971-217-8419.
8419. That is the Matrix hotline, and I will chat. Be nice, okay? Be nice, folks.
You can
don't be a jerk.
David, you said Baylor, and that's where our bread and butter is. But we have got people in this chat room.
Oh my God.
I mean, all over the place, all over the place.
Since Texas and Oklahoma story in late July, our YouTube channel has exploded, and it's been amazing. So we have fans all over, the Cincinnati fans, Brigham Young fans, all the way to UCF, and then everyone else in between. So, and sometimes what we learn about YouTube is that the shows replay themselves, and then you'll start getting like comments on replays. Like it'll pop up. I'm like, I didn't even know. I didn't know. I had to learn that. It's great. Go ahead.
Yeah, Dave, I know you got to probably run too, but your thoughts. I asked you about the schools joining the Big 12, and I'm sure you've talked about this at length elsewhere. But since we have you, what are your thoughts on Oklahoma and Texas' future in the SEC?
Welcome to hell. I've been careful what you wish for. I get it. Look, it's an arms race. They wanted the money. SEC wanted the money too. I mean, the Big Ten schools were making more than the SEC schools. People don't understand the eyeballs and the money Big Ten makes. The alumni base is massive and rich. And so the SEC, the only 2 teams they could get that would expand their money per team. You got to understand it. Everybody's like, well, why don't you take these teams? You'll make more money. Right. No, because you water down everybody else's money, right? As a whole, they make more money, but per team, they don't. The Oklahoma-Texas combination was the only combination available that all 14 SEC teams could make more money at. That is it. Bottom line, nothing else. And Oklahoma and Texas were falling so far behind because of SEC and Big Ten money. I believe 100% that is the only reason why they made the move, was simply for the payday. No ifs, ands, or buts, and it's the only reason. There is no other reason for 14 SEC teams to accept it. Think about it. Oh, yeah, Arkansas, cool. Why don't we invite 2 more top 10 recruiters to kick our ass? Awesome.
Yeah.
What am I getting for it? You get an extra $20 million a year. Yeah, bring them over. Cool. We'll just be good in everything else. That's all it is. Right? That's all it is.
No, it makes perfect sense. Yep, absolutely.
The chat room loves and hates Dave Bartoo for Truth Serum. Hey, man, thank you, Dave. At CFB Matrix, if you want to follow him, if you have not. Great stuff. We'll have you again soon. Dave Bartoo, CFB College Football Matrix. And, yeah, some of you are like, well, he said 1 minute he hated a team, the next minute he probably – no. What he was saying is this is what the college football committee, that Bill Hancock set this system up.
Well, no, it's very clear.
Yeah, which we've all kind of known anyway.
But, I mean, he made it very clear, actually. The college football playoff committee, as much as we want – and, I use the term, like, Dog and what did I use?
Pony show.
Dog and Pony show. That I mean that more for like this whole charade of the playoff show and them going through all these different things. But as he said, the committee itself isn't in the room like just randomly coming up with ways, to say this or that. They're going based off of the guidebook basically that they were given, and that's what it results in. And he basically was just saying he doesn't dislike G5 teams. That's not what he was saying. He was just saying they have no shot whatsoever. He's just being brutally honest about it. And you look at the playoffs. I mean, is he wrong? Do y'all remember any G5 jumping and making a lot of noise, even making the playoff? Not me. So that's all. He's just being just honest about what the playoff really is. It's a set of circumstances that the committee goes off, and then it's no G5s allowed. Is basically what it is.
We will get more into that later on, but coming up next, Olin Buchanan covers Texas A&M. They've got a pretty interesting game coming up with Auburn coming off their win against Ole Miss. Olin will join us. He's next from Texags.com on Sikkim 3.